All right. Hello, everyone. So let's kind of continue, excuse me, talking about resumes. Uh, and we'll kind of continue where the last video left off. There are a few other things I want to wrap up, but that video is getting a little bit long. So, a resume in general, and we looked at some of those templates and examples. In general, a resume should include your heading. So that's all your personal contact information, your name, your address, your email, your phone number, a summary or objective or career goal section, your education, your experience, volunteer work or internships, and then maybe a reference section. Although some people are a little bit divided on whether or not to include that reference section, simply because they say, well, if they want references, they'll contact you. And that's generally true. Food for thought, I generally include at least one reference at the bottom if I have room, or include something that says references available upon request. That's also pretty common. Now, if you don't have any internships or work, or volunteer work or anything like that, you can go ahead and leave those things out. And of course, especially if you're, still in high school or just out of high school, you may not have a lot of experience. And I understand how frustrating that can be and how empty or small a resume can look. But put in what you've got, because that's how we all begin. Now, things that we would want to leave out or things not to include: your age, your marital status or number of children, your current salary, your religion, your political beliefs, or personal details like hobbies. And I've seen most of these on resumes in the past, on other people's resumes, especially the one hobbies. For some reason, people will include hobbies at the bottom. Unless that hobby directly connects to the job or they ask for it, I would leave that one out. And the rest of them, for sure, I would leave out unless they ask for them. In general, number one, number two, number four, and number five are definitely not common in the US, at least as far as I know, because they could be used, considered discriminatory, among other things. Okay, so additional suggestions, and this is a little bit of a recap from the last video. Do your homework, right? Read that job description and do some research into the company, like we talked about in the reading a job post video. Make sure that your resume is free of errors in grammar, spelling, and mechanics, right? We talked about that in terms of kind of dress code. Make sure you use a readable font and font size. So those templates that you can find online, almost all of them are going to be 12-point font, single-spaced, and something like Times New Roman. Use an email address that is your first and last name. This is silly, but I still see it, and I even see students email me from email addresses that are unprofessional, right? Coolguy99 at Yahoo Mail is not the address that you want to use. So if you don't already have one, go ahead and create an email address that is just your first and last name at whatever email service you like or want to use. Not only is it easier for them to remember, but it makes you look far more professional. Again, don't include a picture. Don't include any distracting images, emojis, memes, things like that. Even if you think it might be funny, it's hard to know that the audience will see it as funny. And then most importantly, don't embellish details or lie. I will say, and I'm not proud of it, when I had a working visa in Ireland, I was struggling to find a job. So I made up some fictitious work experience, and it was very clear that I didn't have the work experience, and I did not get the jobs. So avoid that, even if you don't get directly called out on it, it's going to be pretty obvious. Another quick story. I had a friend of a friend in college who essentially talked his way into a job at a computer technology company. And within a couple weeks, they found out that he simply did not have the skills. They did call him out on it, and he did lose that job. And then, of course, that's going to make him look bad in the rest of the industry. Now, part of this sort of discussion of resumes also brings in a CV or a curriculum vitae. And I just want to bring up the two terms because we're focused specifically on a resume, and a CV is something different. Although in some areas, like in the UK, at least when I was living there, CV was the same as a resume. It's just the term that they used. So a resume is a one-page summary of your work experience and background relevant to the job you're applying to. So very important, it's relevant to a specific job. A CV, on the other hand, is a much longer academic diary that includes all your experiences, certificates, and publications. And trust me, if you look up, your instructor's CVs, I don't know that mine's online, but you can find some CVs that are 4 or 5 pages long because it is every publication, presentation, you name it, right? Everything is on there, right? Curriculum vitae is curriculum of life or sort of life story. So we are focused on the one-page work experience and background relevant to a specific job. Now, part of that relevance to a particular job is tailoring your resume. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for the next little bit. And it means adjusting, right? When an employer posts a job opening, they include a list of responsibilities and required or preferred qualifications, as we saw in the previous video. You will take those qualifications and add the same language or keywords throughout your resume to show that you can fulfill the role. A tailored resume proves that you have the skills the employer is seeking and have previously used them to create optimal results at work. Again, remember, 5 to 20 seconds, let's say, that they're going to look at your resume. So we want to make sure that they can very quickly see, identify, and understand the qualifications or experience that you have. So let's go over a couple examples here, right? So let's say our friend Totoro is looking for a new job and they want to find a job at a restaurant near them. So they find 3 different jobs here. So one is restaurant A is fine dining. Restaurant A is looking for a server, so somebody to wait tables. Restaurant B is more casual dining. They're looking for somebody that could be a manager. And restaurant C is casual dining as well, but they're looking for a chef. So Totoro has 3 different jobs, right? It's not just 3 different locations, but they're 3 different jobs. Now, if Totoro has experience waiting tables, then A and B, that would be good to mention, right? And if Totoro has some experience working in a kitchen, then that experience is not going to be necessary for restaurant A or B, but then Totoro can use it in C, right? So the thing here is, even if Totoro has one resume that they use to apply for jobs, they're going to adjust the resume. They're going to have 3 different resumes that they submit that are tailored towards these different experiences or these different jobs that are available, so that the manager at restaurant A is going to see slightly different information than the manager at restaurant C, and that is simply because the requirements are different. So if we go back to the Arizona State University reading on tailoring a resume, again, and this is why I did the job, reading a job post first, read that description, determine the keywords, notice what's mentioned multiple times or seems to be emphasized, speak to those items and keywords with your skills and experiences. Be intentional about what you include, most relevant experiences and skills. Limit your resume to 1 page unless you have 5 to 10 years of experience or your industry of interest requires a longer version. Now, a couple of things that I will mention. If we go back to Totoro, if Totoro worked briefly as a lifeguard, that may not be necessary information for working in a restaurant. Now, one thing that does happen sometimes, people have only had 3 or 4 jobs, they might include that. And I've seen people's resumes where it's all sorts of different jobs that they had when they were young, right? For example, when I was in high school, I worked at a music store that sold instruments, drum sets, saxophones, guitars, things like that. I might put that on a resume if I was going to work in retail, right? If I was going to go to what was my next job, which was working at a bookstore. But at this point in my career, that was not only so far ago, but it's so disconnected from what I'm doing that I wouldn't mention it. So if you've got a longer set of experience, you may not need to mention everything. And it just depends on your situation. Okay. A couple other things here just before we wrap this particular video up. One is applicant tracking systems and keywords. What does that mean, right? So it's probably not a surprise that a lot of employers now are using computer systems, so algorithms and artificial intelligence to sift through applications. My understanding, because I'm not a computer person, is that these programs are essentially looking for keywords. That might be specific experience, it might be specific education. But if those things are not in the resume, then that resume will not get passed on to that hiring manager. So that person that was going to spend 10 to 25 to 20 seconds looking at your resume. So just know that it might not be a person. It might be a computer program, right? And according to Indeed, many of today's hiring managers use these tools, those applicant systems, to filter through resumes using keywords from the job description. So the keywords that computer program is looking for are the keywords from the job description. Tailoring your resume using the job description will improve your chances of having your resume read, right? And then just lastly here, some pro tips. Number one, the more that you know about the company and their values, the more you can tailor your resume to match the job. Read that job posting, and I know I mentioned this several times now, and highlight or write down key terms, responsibilities, or qualifications and make sure that those are reflected in your resume. And then remember that you're aligning or tailoring your resume to a specific job, and that shows your interest in the job and that you would be a good fit. So it's attention to detail. All right, so I'll go ahead and end here. If you have questions, comments, concerns, jokes, memes, or recipes, please let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you later.